Is AI is easy, but AR is not easy. The old stuff is now too difficult, but we're getting there. Welcome, 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 everyone. And we're having several people join us on Zoom here.
Okay.
So what is happening is
Hi, Alex. We're gonna just do a mic check with Dr. Majigo. Thanks. I hope I said it.
Yes. So what I did was I've switched on our live stream on YouTube, and we put in a little bit of a buffer there so that we'll start in about 3 to 5 minutes after the hour as we have people join us. And we're quite close to doing that. Amazing. All right, we have almost everyone that we need. I think at this point, we've crossed the 15 people mark, so we can get started. I'll pass it on to Valerie, who's going to kick us off.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I am really excited about this initiative and getting started. As you all can see, the world is being transformed by AI and technology right now. So it is beyond, I'm honored to be a part of this initiative. And I think that we will transform the way we engage with technology, how we offer and deliver services and products for the next 10 to 15 to 20 years. I would like to, thank all the speakers for joining us. Thank all of you for participating. I would also like to hand this over to our host, Alex Sato. I'll hand it over to you, Sato.
Yes, thank you very much. And she's doing that because our great patron here, Dr. Julius Garvey, has just been called into a pretty important meeting, and so isn't able to give us his opening remarks. But nevertheless, we'll be able to carry this on. This initiative has been sponsored from the get-go by the Marcus Garvey Institute, for Human Development, which has had that commitment for almost many decades now, right? And representing all the work that's been done by his father and people like himself for several centuries. And so we are excited to bring you this event today. With him not being here, I will go ahead and share with us a couple of slides for 5 minutes to just help set the tone, give an overview of why this is important. Then I'll introduce the incredible speakers who are here with us today to help us navigate this topic, while all of you who are listening can share some of your thoughts in the chat and put in questions that we'll be able to take at the end of the time that we have today together. So I'm sharing my screen, and you should be able to see it's a building the first HBCU supercomputer. If you don't, let me know, right? And so with that, let's see here. There's been about 100 years of Black History Month celebration. It's a celebration of resilience, of people who have paved the way for unprecedented growth for us. But now we are thinking about what the next 100 years could look like. And we want it to look like wealth generation, look like innovation, look like growth. And AI can be an incredible multiplier that can make that happen. AI typically needs two things to learn. For those who are new to it, you've probably used ChatGPT, you've used some large language model to make your life better, and you're learning to love AI. But in terms of how it actually works, there are two big things it needs: data and speed. You can think of data like a book. For AI to learn about what it knows, it needs to memorize hundreds of books, and it needs to do them really, really fast. So to do that, it needs very, very fast computers, and that's what we're calling a supercomputer. A A supercomputer is a very fast computer that is made up of something that people call GPUs or AI chips. You bring a lot of them together and they become a supercomputer. The books, the data that's being used to train AI today are not representative of some cultures in the world. And one of those cultures is the Black culture, whether it is the Black culture in America or it is the Black culture across the entire Africa diaspora. It's stated to be less than 5% coverage of our data. So there is a lot of blind spot when AI is trying to help us improve our lives, but it doesn't know much about our history. So when the data is wrong, AI can get things wrong. And that bias can sometimes be funny, where you see a picture not appear the way you want it to appear, or sometimes it's dangerous when a doctor is trying to use AI to give you advice, but gives you the wrong advice because it doesn't know about you. Or even costly when you're trying to get a loan from a bank, but the bank doesn't know how you operate your business, so they're not going to give you the loan because it doesn't know that. That's what we call culturally relevant AI, and we're trying to enable that. Those books that we're looking for, they are books that we have. They're present in the historical Black colleges, the HBCUs. We also have the talent, but the gap is the fast computers, the supercomputers. And so that's what we're here to talk about today, of how we bridge that gap so that we can build culturally relevant AI. Fixing this could change everything. And I would actually want our panelists to talk about that, of what could be possible if we brought every piece together. You can think wealth generation, global impact, AI equity. There's a lot that could happen. And we're not going to be starting from nowhere. There's already work that's being done. From my company, Uju Technologies, we've launched something called the Africa GPU Hub. It connects GPUs and fast computers across the African continent so that people there can build. So that's already happening. And then in America, Morehouse College announced about $5 million that they received with the NSF grant. That's part of over $450 million that was provided. And so we're thinking there's already momentum. How do we multiply it by 10 or 20? So these are some of the things we're going to be talking about today. Let's go ahead and try to fix this. And to fix it, we have our incredible speaker lineup, who I could call the Avengers, if you permit me to do that, where Dr. Julius Garvey, he's not here right now, but I'll still read his byline, right? He is carrying forward the legacy of the Marcus Garvey to ensure communities' ownership of technology. Myself, I worked at NVIDIA. I led the group that deployed the very first AI GPUs in the world, and continue to work across Africa and the HBCUs to see how we can keep building AI. Dr. Morris here with us is the world's first Metaversity Director at Morehouse College, and she can tell us a bit more about how Morehouse got that grant and what can go on and do with it. Dr. Godfrey Madigu is joining us from Kenya. He's been transforming African academic institutions for over 20 years, and he's currently the Dean of Strathmore University, the Dean for Economics, and he has pretty big goals of what he wants to do there. Evan Porcelet, you're always not sure I'm pronouncing your name correctly, and when you eventually speak, you tell us about it, right? So he starts off as a software engineer. You wanted to say something?
Oh yeah, just Poncelet.
Poncelet, amazing. Yes. So software engineer, venture scale infrastructure builder, and he'll tell us a bit more about that. Pierre is the capital force behind over $10 billion in global infrastructure. And Sylvie Bello is a bipartisan connector that has shaped federal and international tech policy, and also brings us an incredible experience of having gone to a HBCU herself. And so with all that, I will now start to bring in the speakers into this. And I'll start us off in the, talking first with the research and the campus frontier, the side of things. So basically Dr. Morris and Dr. Madigu. So for both of you, you could choose who would go first. From your vantage point on campus, what kinds of research or teaching are currently constrained by lack of computer or AI infrastructure? Would you mind sharing with us about that?
Sure, I'll go first. Hi, I'm Dr. Messina Morris. I am a trained biomolecular chemist who is also a technologist and created the world's first metaversity at Morehouse College. Metaversity is the first model of which 200 other universities globally follow in order to deploy a digital twin of their campus and make virtual reality the classroom for their students so that they can visualize the future of who they want to be. We at Morehouse have also used AI-powered virtual reality environments in order to train our students in different disciplines. So we've taught over 50 courses this way, and we also have Holo tutors. And so we have been using not just extended reality technologies, but also AI for quite some time. Now, I'm not alone in this. I stand amongst 15 to 20 faculty members who are also part of the Metaversity. There are 3 others who started this initiative with me, and we were backed by the provost at the time. The problem with any type of emerging technology at this point is that we as HBCUs don't own any infrastructure. And so while we have brilliant projects and lots of innovation, we are still buying GPUs, right? And Dr. Kenneth Gaucher, who actually is the one who is the PI of this $5 million grant, is actually over the Center for Broadening Participation in the Computing Sciences. And he is also the chair of the Software Engineering and Computer Science program. So I follow in his footsteps in just pushing the envelope when it comes to how we are going to create some type of infrastructure of ownership for our students and for our communities. So for us, this is about owning the intelligence layer. And if we don't build compute capacity at HBCUs, we're actually relegating our students to consumers of intelligence rather than producers of it. So my motto for what I've been doing is always build the metaverse table. And when I say metaverse, I'm not talking about Meta, the company, even though they have been partners with us. I am talking about what is the next iteration beyond what we see now in terms of our own reality. So computing and the internet, I saw that come about, so dating myself, but also like what does the future hold for our students? What is the next iteration of the web? And how do we not just sharecrop off of old technologies or build off of tools that may, or using tools that may or may not exist, but how can we partner with others in the African diaspora to own the infrastructure in which we build upon?
Yeah, thank you very much for saying that. Yeah, Dr. Godfrey, please, love to hear from you as well, from your perspective.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you to all the organizers, Alex, for organizing this. As Alex has already pointed out, I'm based in Kenya. I'm the Dean of the Institute of Mathematical Sciences at Strathmore University, which is a private university in Nairobi, Kenya. We do get students from many countries in Africa, especially the ones, if you know, the African continent, East Africa. Kenya is to the east near the Indian Ocean. But we do get students from other African countries like Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, the Democratic Republic of Congo, even from as far as West Africa, Nigeria, and Liberia. So it's an interesting perspective to hear from Dr. Morris. My perspective is certainly different because of where I'm actually based. And I've been in the education sector for more than 20 years. We've been doing a lot of things. And I remember 10 years ago, one of the things that we actually did was to ensure that everyone who actually came to the university, irrespective of the course that you're actually taking, you're going to be given a laptop. This was something that was a true game changer for everyone here. But it was very clear that technology is something that you really need to embrace. Students need to take assignments, they need to use academic platforms, they need to access journals which are online. And so that was made very easy because we have an innovation in Kenya called M-Pesa, which is digital money. And we have been having it for more than 25 years now. And so just with your mobile phone, it doesn't need even to be a smartphone, just even a feature phone, you're able to transact. And so it's very easy to actually get onto the internet and check out things. And so AI comes up. I wasn't expecting what was happening here. I was just a simple dean of Mathematics Institute, and I was looking at different things at that time. And the question that Alex has asked is, what are some of the things we're able to do if we get a supercomputer? For now, basically the supercomputers we have been having access to outside the continent. Some of my colleagues have been doing things with some of their co-researchers in Europe or in the United States. So we don't have really access to locally here to a supercomputer or GPUs. We just got our first GPU, I think, towards the end of last year. So it's only still one, and it's not on a server. It's really on a desktop. So what could we do? I'm a trained economist, and one of the things perhaps I could just speak what we'll be able to do. In the models that we have for economics, most of these from the view of the African continent, they come from the West. We are told how money works, how the central bank actually works, interest rates, how if you want to control money supply, you need to do that using interest rates. But the issue of the African economy is very different, because in developed countries, you actually find that the formal sector accounts for 50, 60, even 70%, whereas in Africa, that's the reverse, because the formal sector is something like 20% of the economy. The remaining 80% is the informal sector. We need to know how that works, and the models that the central bank actually use all over Africa are the same ones that actually come from the West. But they don't work so well, because even when interest rates are raised or lowered, you want to see that in the real economy. It just doesn't happen, because most people actually don't put their money in the banks. So it doesn't work. And to do that, you'll need to do a lot of simulations. And one of the ways in which you can do this is through agent-based modeling. But try to do that on a laptop, it takes a long time. And you increase the number of agents, then it becomes a big issue. And the computer can't run, or you need to wait for several days. So having access to a GPU just cuts that time down, and you're able to do sensitivity analysis, which is very important when you're developing models in mathematics. You're able to see exactly what piece do I need to change. So that is just one example of what we can do, but there are very many other areas of things that we could do. One of my colleagues has just developed a model for anti-money laundering, which our central bank, we need to talk to them to see whether they can actually scale up the project. And this is something that is new, and they had to use a supercomputer from elsewhere. And obviously it's expensive, and we don't have access to the funds to actually get that kind of computing power. So owning a supercomputer, or having access to one where we could, the researchers could play around with their models and the things that they're doing, would really be useful for that purpose. Thank you very much, Alex.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much. Before we dive further into the academic side, I'll actually back out and get 1 to 2 minutes from all the other speakers who haven't gone yet. I'd love to hear the answer to that question is like, can you share one AI research or application that you would love to see come to life, in the next year or next 3 years? Say we're able to get this going. I'll probably start with you, Evan, and then go to Pierre.
Yeah, I think some applications around kind of tracking how flows of capital go through communities are very useful. For example, we have the World Cup coming up in the summertime here in the United States, across all the country or all across all the states. And for underrepresented communities, it's often the case that a lot of the economic flows kind of skip the small business sector. And so just looking at how to get communities better positioned to take advantage of those cap flows, for example, in Seattle, where I live, there's going to be about 900,000 or $900 million spent here. And our population is estimated to increase 700,000 during the course of the games. And so being able to track what sort of economic benefit that has will really help how we develop our business sector. And then also to plan ahead for other sorts of mega events. So you have like Formula One or All-Stars games or different things like this. And those represent like large kind of economic events that have the potential to put many businesses, past what their numbers need to be for the year. So just knowing kind of what the state of things are and being able to run those models in real time across like purchasing systems and different things like this, and to run simulations on how things could have been improved would be something that is very useful in terms of supporting the business sector. And then I think, also just as we kind of move forward and many countries have backed from the climate pledge, modeling of atmospheric carbon is something that can be very useful for this. And sequestration efforts and tracking that in real time is going to be useful, I think, as we, progress. So I think just, the ability to do those and the ability to have that research living inside of HBCUs is going to be very necessary because where the priorities are often when it comes to the climate change conversation are not in the countries that are going to be impacted by the most by it, but rather by the countries that contributed the most to causing it. And so I think that, the narratives can shift based off of who's doing the calculations. And so the people who are most impacted, I think, deserve to have the voice and the insight on that to bring out to the world in a way that, really shows a better or more accurate picture of what's going on.
Yeah, no, definitely. Let's get from you, Pierre, and we've got Sylvie as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex, for putting this together, and it's a pleasure to meet everybody. Where I would love to see AI applied in the coming years. Well, first of all, I want us to apply it because it's like a race, and I'm glad that the HBCUs are now in that race, and young brilliant minds are. We've invented a lot of things in this country, so I'm really looking forward to seeing our young brilliant minds excel here. I would love to see it in the areas of farming and manufacturing, especially when it comes to not just regular just farming, like picking apples and stuff and teaching the drones how to do this and how to do that, but it could be somewhere like tilling the land. So maybe like every week or every depending on where you live, it automatically cleans out the snow, automatically keeps the grass low. I like to see it deployed in areas like that, areas where we would normally work with our hands. It could be farming, it could be mining, it could be manufacturing. I think AI would really make a great impact there, especially also in jobs that are hazardous to human beings. I think this could be great too. AI plus robotics could make a really good impact here and kind of preserve life.
Very cool. Sylvie, what are you thinking? Sylvie, are you able to share with us? When you can share a note. And as I like to keep things dynamic, I'm
Hey,
reading.
Alex.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Howdy from Texas. Sorry, I am in rural Texas. I'm working on the U.S. Senate campaign. And yes, AI is critical because parts of It's still today in 2026. We just don't have the full range of technology that we need. But before I even go into that, I just want to take this moment and say that I am truly, truly honored to be part of this panel, and especially part of this project, Alex, where you as a futurist, you as, next gen, saw the foresight to connect with the Marcus Garvey Institute, when we're celebrating 100 years of what formalized as Black History Month, right? Because we know there's always been Black history from the beginning of times, but here in America, and when we have someone like Dr. Julius Garvey, who is in his 90s, right? The last son of, the honorable, legendary Marcus Garvey. We really can see how this is a Sankofa moment for me, which is we're looking back to go forward. So I just want to just acknowledge that. And as someone who has been on the Marcus Garvey Committee parade in Baltimore, and this year was celebrating our 56th parade. So this is really a full circle moment. Now, to come to what it means, what would we want to see AI do? At the Cameroon American Council, we do work on policy. We are very Pan-African, very pro-Black. And what we would like to see is that the same disparities that were promised with the internet in 2000, right, does not happen. That is what we would like to see. I'm going to pause there. And when you come back to me, I would have more questions and I will be able to answer. So just wanted to take this moment to recognize the last day of Black History Month. Thank you.
Yes, and the next 100 years of the future that we're going to start building from today. I like to keep this pretty dynamic, and in that dynamic nature, I'm reading through the comments and questions, so keep dropping them on there. One of them that I found pretty interesting was talking about, the lack of electricity and power in Africa and how that's going to affect AI. Well, I welcome you to think about the fact that the level of power that's there right now, has that stopped anybody in Africa from using ChatGPT? The answer is no. The biggest users in the world of ChatGPT are in Africa. If you look at the rankings, they are in Africa. So there's no issues with power for using AI. What we're talking about right now is building AI. We must figure out how we provide the infrastructure so that we can build AI. So we're not just consumers of technologies, but but builders of technology. So that's what we're talking about here today. And we can provide the power for those people to make it happen. And so I'll come back to you, Dr. Morris, both in terms of what you want to say since you've raised your hand, and also to bring up one of the questions that come up. Many people, talk about how HBCUs are small, they're not research intensive, they're not R1 universities. And to the largest extent, that is probably true. But then amongst the hundreds of HBCUs, there must be bright sparks of spaces where research is happening, where innovation is happening, where we can actually empower builders, right? We're not talking about the entire population of HBCUs or the entire population of Africa or the Caribbean. We're talking about the few builders. So where are the builders within HBCUs? Plus the comment you wanted to make when you raised your hand, please.
Hey, so there are builders at every HBCU, to be quite honest, and there's always one or two champions of technology that are flowing upstream against a lot of resistance of tradition and old attitudes about where knowledge and how knowledge is gatekept. One of the hardest things that I see is that we have so many students that can code, they can model, but they don't know how to train models. They don't know how to simulate within complex systems, and they can't build at scale. So we teach this algorithmic like thinking, this ability to computationally think without actually giving them the power. And it's a big structural mismatch, and still putting the major first, still putting just the discipline first instead of interweaving computing and algorithmic thinking and understanding within each discipline. because it is a sociological problem. It is a psychological problem because of behaviors. It will be a problem in the business and economic realm. It will be an issue when it comes to even like working at the bench. But there are so many brilliant minds that exist across the landscape. Howard University is doing amazing things when it comes to AI. Morgan State University is doing amazing things when it comes to AI. Tennessee State University, I'm a part of their super users of AI fellowship, and Dr. Robbie Milton runs that. And we are doing all that we can to make sure that we not only have a seat at the table, but that we have agency within these infrastructures to be able to develop the talent pipeline and create the skill sets that our students need in order for them to have a seat at the table. But they can't do that if they're never trained using large models, if they never work with distributed systems, if they never optimize GPU clusters, then they're not being hired into the rooms where frontier AI is being built. They can't even do it themselves. And so it's going to take more than just a singular effort. It's going to take a large concerted effort. You have Jackson State University that were really first in pioneering what it looked like to create immersive learning. They just didn't have any support. They just were way ahead of their time when it came to deploying it. We happened to deploy it at a time during the pandemic where everyone was hungry enough to see how could we build next level things to be able to reach and create the accessibility for our students. But we are far behind where we need to be because we're still building and using tools that don't really empower infrastructure. And for me personally, as an innovator, as a builder, as someone who's not afraid to be first, who's not afraid to be the blueprint, who's not afraid to challenge systems, what still puzzles me is that we sit and have all of these conversations and we don't execute anything. That for whatever reason, we are still sitting in committee trying to decide whether AI is about academic dishonesty rather than actually creating what the next will be. And what I do know about Black people, people of African descent, is that when we build for everybody. We build for all humanity, and we build with excellence. There's never been a time, because if there was, you wouldn't be sitting in the chair you're sitting in. You wouldn't be pulling the blinds down that you are. You wouldn't be using broadband because we did that. You wouldn't be using home security because we did that. You wouldn't be doing a lot of things that you're actually currently doing because it was built off of the genius of Black people. They wouldn't be sending anybody to the moon. They wouldn't even be thinking about Mars because it was Katherine Johnson and her team that sat there and created those mathematical equations that got them there. So what I'm saying is, we can't say that we can't build. We just need to do it. And we need to stop sitting and thinking about it and start developing our next generation, because honestly, we're so busy trying to hold our own position that we're not thinking about succession. And in Africa, where 60% of the population is under the age of 25, that is a blessing and something that can be used, but will be exploited in the terms of digital recolonization if we don't help our young brothers and sisters and help our own children understand the power that they have, the genius that they have to innovate, create, and build infrastructure. This is not going to be a time to sit back and wait for what's being deployed for us. This is a time right now where we need to sit and get together and mastermind and execute.
Yeah, so thank you so very much, Dr. Morris, for that very powerful message. And I'll bring in Dr. Godfrey here before we even now shift to the financial side after that. Is ChatGPT, the large language models, they have been very useful. We've used them a lot and they've been great. But then so much so that there's been a lot of commentary that why do we need a supercomputer? Can't we just use the LLMs and just stop there? Or if we need access to GPUs, just get cloud credits. How would you comment on that based on your experience? Is there a need for more? And why is that the case?
Yeah, thank you very much, Alex, for that question. Would like to say that I identify a lot with what Dr. Morrison has said, and I think clarion call of action is something that I share with that. Thank you so much for actually giving that very good explanation on exactly what is going on and what we really need to do. And getting to your question, Alex, yeah, I mean, ChatGPT certainly has done a lot of things. I mean, I use it every day, and not just ChatGPT, but the other models as well. And it's interesting, you're able to get information, and if it's not that good, then you're able to drill down and you're able to check from other places, but it's a good fast pass. And that already is a lot, but there are certain things you're not able to do with ChatGPT, precisely because ChatGPT is a model itself. There's nothing wrong with it, but it has been given data which we know about. So the data set that was used, the training data that was used to train it is what we already know. But sometimes you want to refine a little bit to make it more specific. So for instance, there is a time I was working on a disease which is known in the tropics as Rift Valley fever. ChatGPT can give you what already has been done by Rift Valley fever, which is a disease which actually attacks cattle and human beings as well. But you need a special type of mosquito. Well, it's not really special, but certain species or mosquito for the disease to be transmitted from one cow to another cow. And it's a disease that is only found in this part of the world. Now, you can't get ChatGPT just to have information on that only. And when people are doing the research, they're doing it on this side of the world. You'll want to actually to get your own GPUs so that you can actually put in some of the information that you're not really sure about, and you see what the model gives you. And that will enable you to perhaps track the disease better than it has been done before. So you need that specificity in a particular place, and you cannot do that with a general LLM model. You need to actually have a very specific model suited to the place. So that is already a very good case to ensure that the models actually can be used in one place. So you just can't have one general model that does everything, and that's just about one disease. So when you see what it can do also in, say, the way we actually do medical practice here will be different from the way they will do it in the West. I live in Europe for a number of years there, but if you tell people about malaria, they have never heard of this particular disease, whereas here in this part of the world, it's something that we deal with every day. One of my relatives will just actually get sick. So you will want to actually have something that is also global, but at the same time local. Yeah, so thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so very much for sharing that. And it starts to then bring us to the next point of, okay, this is important, but then how are we going to pull it off? One of those critical pieces is getting the operations correct and getting the funding right. And so I'll bring in Pierre and Evan here. Maybe Pierre first. There's been a big objection that says, or rather, even before the objection, let's think about from the funder's perspective. What are key things you look for or will make you feel confident in investing in a project like this of say, building a large supercomputer, either within a HBCU campus or even with an institution that serves HBCUs, for it to be a shared infrastructure for these universities in the US and also neighboring countries where they are partners in the Caribbean and in Africa. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Alex. I'll say probably about three things we look for. The first one would probably be, first of all, we want competence. You gotta know what you're doing. We would like to also make sure that the information that is being stored, being used, being learned should be kept, safely. That probably security will be another thing for us. And impact. We also want to see this impact not only for the United States, but we would like to see it for our brothers and sisters in Africa, in the Caribbean, and in other places as well, so that they can also benefit from that. Those would probably be the three main things that we would look for in terms of funding initiatives such as this.
Yeah, on my end, I think, so kind of the AI race from the SaaS kind of or kind of AI wrapper kind of context, that's kind of what we're seeing in the business context. And those have some issues with respect to um, being able to defend themselves from competitors. One of the things that makes core models interesting from a VC perspective is that they're hard to train. You do need this infrastructure to create them. So they have a moat around them in that way. And that if you can get a public-private partnership or a university partnership with an entrepreneur that might even be coming out of a computer science program or licensing a technology that they have, unique access to, that it would be hard for someone to come up behind them and generate. Those become more interesting from an investment perspective, especially if the models are trained kind of for unique business purposes and where there can be, proven cost savings to a business or revenue generation. And so that's really attractive. And I think training people that have the skill set necessary to, train those models or make training of those models more efficient, those skills are in high demand. And even companies around training models more efficiently are in, high demand. So, for example, I think, I don't know if everybody remembers the cultural moment when DeepSeek hit, but like that was largely their ability to train models more effectively, like off of models that we've created. And so I think that those rooted in HBCUs, which are rooted in, liberatory Black economics, and just really centered in cultural competency around kind of the Black American experience and even the global diaspora experience. I think, having the ability to have people create from, that lens is going to be super important going forward, because the one large fear I think that a lot of communities face is if these models are developed explicitly just in communities that are of the global minority, right? So we're talking about people that aren't from the diaspora necessarily, right? Um, there's the potential for gentrification of knowledge, where what these models say creates an inaccurate perspective of the world, much like the Mercator projection of the globe onto two-dimensional maps. So you think certain concepts have outsized influence because the training set was provided to a model by someone whose interest was not, of kind of folks, that come from kind of our, cultural lens. And so I think super important for us to, be able to be self-determining in that way. And so the sovereignty and freedom to really, decide what's important, to decide the weighting within all the perceptrons in these systems, is going to be super important.
Yeah, so that's really, really incredible perspective, especially from the VC venture capital perspective on investing in some of the things that get built. So that would be really cool. And then with us, as we think of even on the side of building, funding the build of this large supercomputer infrastructure, several groups start to become important, from the grant providers like the NSF to we don't have anyone representing NSF here. So if someone in the group has access to that group, please let us know in the chat, reach us in the DM as you start to contribute to this mission. Another group that will be important there is family offices. And Pierre has had, great exposure with that group. So please Can you maybe educate us a little bit about family office, maybe how it's a little different and what it looks for when it thinks about investments? And I think they tend to also be a little more patient.
Yeah, so on the family office side, very different from VCs. Love VCs; they're awesome. Work with them, but you know, family office we're a little bit more. Every family is different and unique. In our particular situation with the family office that I work with, we're very hands on. We'll want to see you succeed. You know, we want to. If there's other resources that we can bring besides capital, maybe there's certain people that we know. We'd like to get you guys, you know, together so that we can be successful. We're pretty, you know, there's room for some mistakes and stuff. Like I said, it's like a family thing, so it's not so much. You know, it's not too rigid. There's a little bit of flexibility, and we're very easy to get a hold of. You know, you need someone to fly over. We'd come out and see you know, you need to come over. We would come out and see you got a crown on the shoulder. That's not a problem. We're just very easy to work with. So from a funding perspective, I guess the best word I can use to describe us would be we're flexible, we're easy to work with, and we're invested in impact, and also invested in your success.
In another of these webinars, we'll go deeper into funding requirements, and you've just shared about the great sides. On the other side, we'll have to hear about, you know, the requirements, some of the real important things that you need to see. But for now, kind of helping to share that a little bit, I think I asked you and Evan, I would love, you know, if you could do just a little debate for us here, because there's one of the big objections is that with the HBCUs, and truth be told, yes, there are some other structural challenges that are there, right? It's been said that shouldn't these funds be spent on simpler things like I don't know, improving the dorm rooms and physical security. Dr. Morris doesn't like this, you know, and so I'm gonna. I'd love if one of you can argue for and the other argue against. The views, yeah, you're sharing and not your real views, but I'd love to hear both sides of this. So who wants to take which part?
Well, I'm totally against. So I
Yeah.
got that stuff.
Yeah, don't worry, Dr. Morris. I want to put both sides on the table, and then I'll come to you to find out what you think about what they've said. And please don't hate the person that speaks on the other side of what you believe. Evan, are you going to take the side of spending money on dorms?
I'll go ahead and let Pierre take Dr. Morris's side, and I'll play the heel. See what to do.
Yes.
Okay, you want me? So you want to take the side of Evan? Take the side of spending the money on the dorms and
yeah.
Okay, so guys, disclaimer: I'm just taking the side of of spending the money on the dorms, and you know, yeah, you know, I mean, it's great that we have, you know, future thinking and getting to the AI races are all great and wonderful, but we do want to, you know, make sure our students are our future minds are comfortable. We want to make sure that they have the resources, they're sleeping well, they're eating well. You know, if these things are not there, you know, how can you focus in class? How can you build anything if there's not comfort? I mean, not that comfort is the best thing in life, but you know, there has to be some general level of being able to rest, of being able to eat, of having access to certain facilities, especially in places that maybe are historically that are historically underfunded. You need that before you can think about building supercomputers or complex AI systems.
Yeah, and to be honest, it's a real challenge, right? It's even security, you know, yeah, sometimes you're in these programs and I don't want to get too explicit, but yeah, security can be a challenge. And so perhaps if there's any funds, it should just be spent on the simple things so people feel safe and they can read, they can study. And so yeah,
Sorry,
why
Alex.
talk about... Yes, go ahead, Dr. Godfrey.
Sorry, Just for the sake of argument, I'd like also to support PS case, just to but I would just like to say that I support the money being used for GPUs to get supercomputers for the university. So this is just for argument's sake. So I like to argue that money which could have been used to get a supercomputer could be used to get other simpler things like dormitories or classrooms. For the very simple reason that when it comes to dollar for dollar, the impact here is more. So the money that could be used, say, to actually build one HPC center, I don't know, 5 million US dollars. Think about what that can do in an education institution, in an endowment fund for a university. I think the impact would be huge. Secondly, I just designed a HPC center for my university here in Nairobi. Basically, I took it to the university management, to the university council, and they told me I must be crazy because we are trying to do a building for 20 million US dollars. And this HPC was going to go to something like almost 10 million US dollars. So bringing the whole project to 30 million US dollars. Now, raising that 20 million US dollars obviously is difficult. And we have had mixed reactions when trying to look for the money. But when I did design that, the HPC center was going to use 5 megawatts of energy. And the engineers pointed that this was going to translate to 1% of the energy needs of the whole country. So when you look at that from perspective, you realize that in terms of the economy-wide perspective, there are some people, even in this country, who don't have access to electricity, who cannot even go to school, who cannot have proper medicine. And here you are saying that you want to actually do a HPC. So in terms of impact, I think you'll have it more when you'll actually use it for other simpler things within other resources within the university. But as I say, this is only for argument's sake. Thank you.
May I piggyback now?
Yes, you can.
Okay. I work at an HBCU, and I'm an HBCU grad. I graduated from Clark Atlanta University in 2000. I'm also homegrown. That means that I grew up in Decatur.
Somehow, I can't hear you fully. Is it just
Okay,
me?
can you hear me now?
Yes. All
Okay.
right.
I didn't
Go
want to
ahead.
be too loud in the mic. But I grew up in all black school. I went to an HBCU, Clark Atlanta, and I went to Emory for graduate school and then came back to the Atlanta University Center to teach at Spelman and at Morehouse. What I can say is this. We have had the same problem with housing, with infrastructure, with building since even before I was there. You have students who are not able to have air conditioning in their dorms. We have power outages, sewage problems, flooding, you name it, it happens. Okay. And all of the funds that should be going towards that are funds that we have gotten through philanthropic dollars or grants or whatever the case may be. And guess what? All of that comes with constraints. Even this NSF money is going to come with a constraint. And so herein lies the problems. The dorms are still not going to be fixed. They're going to be patched up. The way that students live is not going to change. But if we invest in the next best thing and create our own revenue generation, then nobody can tell us what we need to fix first or next or last. And we don't have the endowments. And when we do get money, we stick them in our endowments. That means we're only able to draw down a small percentage of that, which means that we don't even have the talent or the faculty lines to pay people an actual quality living wage. And people are really just giving their service into these positions because they care about the community. And one of the things that I don't want us to forget is that people spend money on what they want. If they wanted to, it would happen. I've seen homecoming be grander than anything I have ever seen in my life. Where is that money? And why can we come together for that celebration? But for the things that really matter, all you're going to do is complain that the dorms aren't fixed up, that the street has potholes in it. But you don't even pay alumni dues. One, because you can't, because we don't have the buying power to be able to support our families and then also support the institution that allowed us to be able to support our families. So there's a larger problem at play here. And if we're going to do anything, we need to break out of just trying to go hand in mouth and month to month and feed each other, and then try to do something a little bit more innovative to overcome the oppressive systems that have constrained us. And a lot of times we're not thinking about that because we're so busy trying to keep the lights on. And we need to stop trying to just keep the lights on because we're not serving anybody without creating revenue streams that we own, that we can do things with so that we can actually then go build our own building. We're always raising funds, just like the church. And you never see nothing built. And that is where we are. That's the state of majority of HBCUs. And higher ed is changing as a whole. And so we've got to do something different. And it's not going to be just trying to make our dorms better or our buildings better. I have colleagues that's complaining because they got whiteboard. They don't have whiteboards. They want chalkboards. They don't want Zoom rooms. Or they like you have antiquated thinking that is happening within our institutions that needs to change. And there needs to be a refueling of mindset and shifting of how we run our institutions, not just as a family business, but as a corporate infrastructure so that we can actually do what companies and corporations do, and that's generate revenue.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Being able to generate revenues. This being actually investing in this and it creating the system in place that creates the revenue that fixes all those issues that we're calling simple issues. Very, very interesting. As we get closer to the end of this first webinar, I promise there'll be more in the next couple of months. So bringing us to a close here. I'll bring in Sylvie. Sylvie, if you're still there with us, I know you're in Texas. Wanted to talk about, as we try to close this gap, one of the spaces we've seen is through the grants and through policy. And maybe you can educate us on that. And this gap is not just in the Caribbean. It's not just in Africa. Or HBCUs is non-coastal cities, right? There's a concentration of data centers and GPUs in California, in New York, in DC, but other parts, there's big gaps. So can you share with us a little bit about policies, grants, and similar instruments in place that we can start looking into as we try to close this gap?
Thank you so much, Alex, and hello again, everyone. This is Sylvie Bello with the Cameroon American Council. So as fellow panelists have mentioned regarding funding, regarding founding, there are policies right now. Matter of fact, last week, New York State just passed a bill regarding the data centers like a suspension, right? Because as you've mentioned, Alex, folks are thinking this through like, wait a minute, what are we going to do? How is this just going to expose and expand? I mean, we already know about the disparities, but just further expose the disparities when it comes to data centers. And at least 6 states, including New York, have either suspended new data centers, have put in place ways in which to look at, something like a diversity gap to look into that. And there are also this has also come up like in Prince George's County, Maryland, where there are several open seats. This data centers and AI and supercomputers have actually become a policy and a campaign focus there. In talking about grants, one of the as we all know, one of the things where this new administration, let's just say about federal grants, has done is really to reduce a lot of grants. So to see that Morehouse was able to be part of this 400 million plus is a really good thing, and maybe it's a signaling that this administration would use funds for good, right? Because we've seen in the news with Anthropics, and I know a lot of people talked about ChatGPT, and how the Department of Defense right now is looking to put all kinds of penalties to AI institutions and companies that did not go with what they want to do when it comes to weaponizing AI. So as you know, as we're thinking this through, hopefully, again, this being Black History Month, that we're going to ask questions to our elected officials and look into the bills in our different states. So if you're looking for more federal bills, you just have to go to congress.gov, which is .gov, and you can just put in AI, you can put in data centers, and you can see all the bills at least on the federal level. And there you can ask questions to those elected officials who are already in who are already in those houses. And now, like in Texas, for instance, when you think of AT&T, recently I went to the Dallas headquarters of AT&T, and everything there says supercomputer this, supercomputer that, and AT&T is actually moving their global headquarters from Dallas to Plano so they can have more space. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there, and I just want to thank Evan and Pierre because as we're thinking through about funding, it's really good to see Black VCs, Black family offices who are thinking about how do we fund, because as we know, founders who tend to be Black just get very, very limited monies to make the kinds of initiatives and projects that Dr. Morris and Dr. Madigu would like to see. So thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Pierre, go ahead.
I was arguing against this. I was arguing for the just in general because of what we said, but I didn't know things were this. I started looking up things up as we were speaking. I did not know that the colleges were in this kind of condition, and I never went to one. I've always heard about them, but I didn't know they were in this kind of condition. So I think that that has to be something that we definitely have to look into. I'm gonna make my family office and other people aware of this, and maybe there's meaningful things that we can do. So for example, Dr. Messina talked about the potholes. I looked that up, and it's like potholes everywhere and stuff. So I'm gonna make the commitment to visit some of these colleges and universities. And, we have construction companies, we have paving companies in our portfolio, and see if there's ways that we can actually help with this. I did not know they were this bad. So thank you for bringing this up. And thank you for educating this and educating me on this, educating all of us on this and bringing it to our awareness. So I started out as skeptical and kind of, but now I think I'm arguing for that, Evan. So now I'm on this side now. So thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. I want to tell you all about this $5 million grant. So when Dr. Kenneth Gaucher started this, it's the Texas Advanced Computing Center, and this grant does have the 457 million in funding. So the Morehouse Supercomputing Center, it'll be 4 distributed science centers, the National Center for Supercomputing Applications located at the UIUC and Pittsburgh Supercomputing Center, and then the San Diego Supercomputing Center. But so the money is distributed amongst those entities from what he was saying before. So this was in March of 2025 when he was really trying to push this and push AI integration. So I just wanted to mention that there are other entities that are involved in this. Morehouse just so happens to be the only HBCU, which is a blessing. And Dr. Michael Hodge, who is the executive director of the Atlanta University Center, and they have a data science initiative that is there that Dr. Alfred Watkins is over. They're doing all that they can to continue to push us forward and propel us in these particular areas. So you have some great people that are working on these initiatives. Our President Bowman just had an AI hackathon for students. It's not because we don't have the talent, but I could tell you what, these students live in abject poverty for me. And as a mother of 5 sons, it is like horrible for me to even imagine that our kids come from where we have worked so hard as parents and tried to keep them safe and housed and in the suburbs or whatever the case may be. And then we send them to what we think is going to be a great place, which is a nurturing place for them to be. Let me say that. But then they live in abject poverty. And that to me is the craziest thing. And then we kind of step back and say the institutions need to do it, but the institutions also need support because they have capped funding. Yes, Oprah and Mackenzie Scott and all of them, they give a lot of money with constraints. With constraints. And so we are constantly putting out fires and still counting revenue off of how many students enroll.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I see Silva's hand is up, so I'll bring you in and we'll take a few more comments as we head towards the end of this webinar series 1. There will be more people, so stay tuned. Silva, please.
Thank you, Alex. I just wanted to point out that there are several family office conferences coming up. So when we hear some of the concerns that Dr. Morris just put out about, that the need for unrestricted funding, I will post some of them in the chat. And as we're thinking about the HBCU supercomputer project that UW Tech and the Marcus Garvey Foundation is partnering on, and as we're thinking about, how much is this going to cost? One of the things that come to my mind is Howard University's. A couple of years back, I did teach a course, a freshman course at Howard, and really being part of just that teaching faculty, understanding how different presidents at Howard fought to get an R1 certification. And do you know that in all of these years, there's only one HBCU that has an R1 research status, and that's Howard. Right now, there are about 10 other HBCUs with R2. With a project like this, with this HBCU AI Supercomputer initiative, what it would do from just my vantage point as a press and policy person is that it could, and maybe this is up to, the folks who are intimately involved in this, I feel like it could really breach that gap from R2 to R1. Dr. Morris mentioned, the students are ready, and tools and training are needed. So if and someone in the chat, and I'm with you there, someone in the chat posted about, hey, why should we go to the oppressor for this? If we're not going to go if we can get allies, within other communities to give us unrestricted funding. I'm talking to you, family offices. If we can get allies to give us unrestricted funding, and that way we can build these data centers within our own HBCUs, within an HBCU consortium, within Black and African and Caribbean and Afro-descendant communities with sovereign ability. Not that we're going to University of Georgia to beg for this, that, and third, or going to GW to beg for this, that, and the third, right? So we're really hoping that when folks are looking into this, that they will consider that for us to take that next level leaps, and we are going to need unrestricted funding. Thank you.
Thank you so very, very much for that passion statement. And it's all right, all very right. I'm going to break protocol here and bring on a non-speaker because it happens to be one of my advisors and they usually have great things to say. Torian, I'll ask you to unmute so you can share with us.
Hey, okay, so I love the idea and the
Quick
path forward.
introduction. You can
No,
introduce
no, no.
yourself if
Let's
you want to.
that's Drink's thing. We're short on time.
Okay.
So one of the things that so with data centers and with the push for AI. I love that policymakers and family offices are like, hey, let's do this. Let's buy all the GPUs. Let's buy compute. Let's improve these facilities. Let's do all these different things with the KPIs. But then for the people who aren't there, let's just say assume that you don't have a family office, you don't have a VCs, or another way of thinking is on that resource sharing. So like one of the things I do with a university that I quote unquote help is that I actually share my extra compute on my network and build out infrastructures where they can share compute amongst themselves for the projects that they actually want. Like you don't need to always start out with a B200 or something, where it's going to be like $100,000. You can start out with something smaller, something necessary, and build up that need and that resources. A lot of this compute gets bought, but then there's so many people who don't actually know what to do with it when they get there. So we should be training ourselves, and especially these HBCUs and the policymakers within it, to learn how to wield this, right? To learn how to wield this properly so that when they get the compute, they rock star it. Okay. In the Caribbean, we have this place called TT Lab, and they literally put out paper after paper with the compute that they got granted to them. They also, and NVIDIA itself, I know for a fact, has these grants that you can write proposals and they'll give you either compute from a data center or send compute to you, as in like they will actually send you the GPUs, and you can actually have your professors, have your kids apply for these grants. And when selected, hey, listen, now that compute is yours. These people put out like 9 papers a year off of compute they got 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and it continues to pay them off dividends. So what I'm suggesting is that, like, it's not just a, hey, listen, family office. If you're at home and you have like an extra GPU or you bought a GPU, there are ways that you can set it up and let some of these scientists just play around with it and start like actually like doing it from grassroots, because as Black people, that's really where we start. That's really how we go through. Home Head Start started as a grassroots organization. Almost everything that we enjoy and we hold dear started grassroots. So just start there. And yes, we can send the money, we can send the things. If you're saying that, hey, listen, there's other problems, because I have friends from Howard who tell me that, hey, we didn't even really learn mechanical engineering. And I'm just sitting there like, what do you mean you didn't learn? You were there for 4 years. We all got the same degrees. I was also on the East Coast, right? Like, this is because we never actually got to play in design. Like, those are things that, yes, we definitely need to fix. We need to make sure we can share the rest and we can grassroots the rest if necessary. I lost myself a little bit there, but like,
Yeah.
Hey, like when it comes to impact, this is, teaching people how to think and how to wield their resources I think is going to be fundamental for any major change that we do. That is it. Grassroots fundamental changes, and then taking advantage of what's out there. Please do sign up for some of these NVIDIA grants if you have somebody there, because you can get the compute, try it out, and learn.
Yes, thank you so very much, Tara and Daya. And the point you're bringing up is similar to what we said about earlier with the Africa GPU Hub. That's what we are already doing in Africa, where we are combining GPUs that exist out in the open and people can get access to them. And so this is a different level. So there's that level already happening, and people on the chat, please go take advantage of that. And then this is that next level of getting access to a supercomputer to work on some of this even more intense but important culturally relevant AI that we have to get to. So this is amazing. And Torrent's background that he refused to share. So first, he's from Trinidad. Second, he was at NVIDIA while I was there. I believe around before 2020 is when you joined. And since then, he's run some of the most incredible university empowerment programs at NVIDIA, including just like 3-4 days ago in Bermuda, I believe, running a program there to educate many people on how to build hands-on for like 3 hours, a 3-hour workshop. And they give them some edge devices, small GPUs to build with, and they built with that. So you can imagine that kind of partnership coming together with this Marcus Garvey initiative. And together, I'm really excited for what we can do in 2026. So I'll start bringing us close to the end of this very one. I'll share my screen really quickly and show you how we're thinking about the next steps. And then bring it back to our speakers again to maybe answer 1 or 2 questions, right? So for the rest of over the next 3 months, we're going to be involved in some detailed feasibility studies where we're going to have further conversations with stakeholders from the HBCUs themselves to partner universities to family offices and understand what we need to do, and that needs support. So if there's ways you want to support that feasibility studies, we welcome it, maybe with your time or your funds. We really welcome it. Within those 3 months, we will also have more webinars like this, where we invite the community to discuss this, so we co-create together. And then after that 3-month period, we were moving forward, regardless of whether we get additional funds or not. We're going to move forward. We're going to initiate the construction of the supercomputer, and we really invite you to join us on that journey. So the next slide really shows you how you can start to do that. Where you can scan these QR codes. The first one is where you can sign up and tell us just how you would like to contribute, whether you want to provide advice, provide a connection, provide just pathways to get into what we're trying to do. And the second one is if you're even trying to contribute today, that's a link to PayPal that links to the Gavi account, and we can start to make those contributions. So I'll leave these on screen while I will now let me see. I'll bring it back to the speakers. Can you give your? We are close to being out of time, so maybe a 1 to 2 minutes commentary to help close us out from your end.
Okay, I could go first. So a couple of things. Thank you for putting this together, Alex. Like I said, it's been very eye-opening and educating. I think the solution lies in doing both, which is helping from a capital perspective, which is helping the HBCUs as well as making sure that we're also in the AI race and having our best and brightest minds and our young minds, get into this race. And so we can also benefit from it. We can benefit from creating it. We can benefit from using it for ourselves, our culture, for diaspora, globally, the islands, everything. Something that kind of came to mind was, there might be things that we could also do that are kind of in the middle. And what I mean by that is, for example, I was thinking about, maybe building cell phone towers or fiber, that could help the supercomputer side of things. At the same time, it could also help the digital, the broadband desert that the HBCUs have at the same time. So you can kind of almost kill 2 birds with 1 stone, or you could have one solution that has impact in 2 places, and it solves the issue of actually it also helps with security, cybersecurity as well, but it solves the issue of the students not being able to have those basic things that they need, and at the same time also helps them to also move forward as well. But again, very eye-opening here, and very grateful that you put this panel together, and looking forward to the future.
Thank you. Who wants to go next? Dr. Godfrey, spend some time.
Yeah, sure. So thank you very much. I'd just like to, like Pierre said, to thank you very much, and all the organizers who have actually put this on. I did meet Alex for the very first time a few weeks ago when he was in Kenya, and we had a very interesting discussion, and it really helped me a lot. And just listening to the various speakers here, giving their various perspective when it's terms of funding or from the university perspective, and some of the things which actually face HBCUs has been really assisted me to understand better what I'm dealing with. And I think there's a lot of experience that I've actually taken here from the discussions, which I will be taking back to the rest of my team to see how we can do things in a better way. And and then to see, I think for me, the biggest issue here is just the way forward, which you have actually placed there, what you're going to do. And it's going to be an in-depth study of just finding out what's going to happen, what's actually in place in these various universities, and what can we do. And then we see how this problem can actually be solved. And I think if we put all our heads together, we are going to reach the destination. And if we don't get to the destination, at least we'll have tried. But I'm sure we'll actually get there. So thank you very much to everyone for sharing your various experiences. I think for me, this has been really fruitful. And I look forward to attending the other organized sessions as well. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Evan.
Yeah, I just wanted to second what the other speakers have said in terms of thanking the organizers for making this accessible to folks so we can have these sorts of discussions, which I think are critical and will change kind of the scope of how diaspora globally interacts economically. And I just wanted to kind of lift up again what Dr. Morris said about commercialization and the importance of that. So a lot of what is achieved when you have a 1-to-8 net worth imbalance, right, in the U.S. between folks from diaspora and folks from, the local majority culture, is achieved through advocacy and through civic campaigning and different things like this. But the power of generating revenue from large commercial and market access kind of outcomes is that you do get to be self-authoring that way. And so I think that entrepreneurship is going to be increasingly something that people have to look at as AI does displace a lot of kind of white collar workers. And so one of the beauty of the things that AI can enable is direct market access as opposed to going through a middleman for employment. And then to get shares of an enterprise that one or two people have majority ownership of. And so I think just, as people are building out and as people are trying grassroots efforts to solve, important research problems, funding not just research, but also commercialization efforts to scale these sorts of companies that can get us outside of kind of dependence sort of situations as AI does enable greater access to markets and identifying markets, training people to, get at those niches and really capitalize and bring those funds to our HBCUs can help create a virtuous cycle that can solve this problem. And also globally, I'll say one last thing is the tether to the continent is very important for all the reasons mentioned. I'll say 7 out of the 10 fastest growing GDPs in the world are in the continent of Africa right now. In addition to the workforce being young and very hungry, I've been out to Kenya and Egypt and seen some of the populations there and what they're working on. And just want to say, building a base that can extend to, I think, what will be the current generation's kind of China growth story in Africa. I think that's going to be very important to all of this as well. So not thinking of ourselves as isolated pockets of diaspora, but thinking of ourselves as like a global diaspora can also help us leverage all of the strengths in all of the regions.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Let's see who hasn't gone. Dr. Morris and then maybe Sylvie. You go last.
So what I do have in my heart is a lot of love. I wouldn't do what I do if I did not love our community. And I'm going to be really honest. This is about our responsibility. This is a moment where intelligence is actually being architected, but human intelligence created artificial intelligence. So we need not be afraid. Ownership right now is really about stewardship. It's about ensuring that our children, whether they're in Atlanta, Lagos, Kingston, where my husband was born, or Accra in Ghana, are trained to operate these systems and equipped to design them. They need agency and they need autonomy, and they need us to be able to coordinate and give them not permission, but preparation. And so we don't need to wait for the perfect condition, because that's not life. We need conviction, collaboration, and courage as our ancestors had. And it's time that we build infrastructure that reflects our values, that we develop talent that reflect our brilliance, and that we steward data and knowledge with integrity, and that we execute together, because the intelligence layer of the future will be owned. The question is, will we have helped shape it? Will we build it? Will we have any ownership over it? And then, honestly, humanity cannot wait for us to remain in committee about issues and problems that really affect our community. We have got to care outside of who we are and start really reaching over and create a global uh, enterprise that serves all humanity. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Morris. It was breaking in and out, but at least we caught some of what you're saying, and very, very powerful message. Before Sylvie gives us her final comments, I'll just share that as we think about the fundraise for this, would really love advice and direction pointing for us. Uh, Other institutions across the US have raised hundreds of millions of dollars. The one that was announced just last week was $453 million. Schools in Austin have raised similar amounts of money to build this kind of infrastructure. And so we're looking to learn about the pathways to getting up to $100 million that can go towards infrastructure that will be shared across the HBCUs in the US and partner universities in the Caribbean and in Africa. Right. 100 years of Black history, 100 years of the future, $100 billion for the Starline supercomputer to unlock innovation and the future of what generation for our people and the rest of the world. As what we're looking towards, and we'll be working on that 3 months of feasibility study over the next this next 3 months, working with the Marcus Garvey Institute. So we also encourage you to reach out to see how you can support that program as well. And so with that, I'll give it to Sylvie. Look, I've upgraded you to close us out.
Alex, thank you. And to close out, I cannot do that without lifting our ancestor, Marcus Garvey. And I'm going to read just a short quote from what he said up in Boston in 1922 when he came to the US from Jamaica to do a national tour. And this is, and all he said was, "I know no national boundary where the African descendant," he used the N word there, which was common at the time, "is concerned. The whole world is my province until Africa is free." Alex has put out the call to action. And again, in doing that as a futurist, he connected with the Marcus Garvey Institute. And even though Dr. Julius Garvey is not here in this conference, I can tell you and that throughout the preparation for this, Dr. Garvey was very, very involved. He's over 90 years old, and as Alex mentioned, could not be here, but we know that not only the spirit of his father, but his own wisdom is within, because any technology, as we saw in the 2000s when they were talking about the internet, without connecting to our roots, it's not going to take us where we need to go. Family offices, venture capitalists, private equity, we need unrestricted funding. And that's what It's going to happen for the rest of this year. Someone had asked, I believe my good Cameroonian sister, and technologist in her own right, legal technologist, Husa Blake X, where do we find these family offices? Well, Husa, come join us. So we're looking for buy-in. Come join the Marcus Garvey Institute. Come join Udo Tech. Come join Alex, and Dr. Blackwell. The great super mind. Come join us. Let's look for them together. There are a series of conferences happening. I posted one where Evan and Alex were on a panel. It's called Opal Group, because no gatekeeping here. That's how we're gonna move forward. And come join us. Alex has put out the call: $100 million for 100 years of Black history being recognized. Sounds solid. And with that, I just want to thank everybody and give it back to Alex, and thank you for having us. Bye-bye.
Thank you very, very much. Sylvie, thank you very much. All the speakers who've contributed to your knowledge, and thank you everyone who's commented on the chats, all the others who are going to watch this on the YouTube live stream, which is going to stay on the internet for a little bit before we take it down. So please share it with your friends, share it with people you believe should watch this and can contribute to it as we build going forward. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Saturday. It's the end of Black History Month, is the end of February. Let's be re-energized and take the rest of the year up by storm. Enjoy.
I'm seeing the form should be working now. So if you guys go back on the site, you should be fill out the form about your interest. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So the QR code for signing up at the Starline GPU, that's the link, right? It's not working. So it's now working. So you can go use that. Awesome. The StarlineGPU.com. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
All right.